Thank you all. Thank you, Veray. What? Hey, baby, I love you too. Let's go. My hair's on fire. I'm fired up out of my mind. Oh, my gosh. What an amazing couple days so far, right? Am I right? I mean, golly, what? Hopefully you got your ticket. Like $199 to change your life is incredible. It's incredible. And one thing that Andy taught me a long time ago, and he talked about it this week or the other day, yesterday, make a decision and then do that thing. Like, make the decision. Like, if this is what you're going to do, then let's do that, right? And what's the next right thing to do? It's to get your NatCon ticket. I know some of you, you sold your last, car getting here and, hawked things and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, and if you can put 50 down on it, put 50 down on it. But, man, if we're going to do this, let's do this. Let's do this together. Does that sound good? All right. All right, so you all know that this is more than a business, right? It's more than a business. Can you feel it? Like, can you feel the energy about this? This is way more than a business. Like, if I could, like they were talking about, Jake, I think they were saying if you could look down on you 5 years ago and tell yourself, I'd be like telling myself, this is more than what I think it is. Like, when I first got started, I just wanted to pay my bills, right? But if I could look back and say, this is more than you think it is, do it faster, quicker, right? And so we're on a mission in this room, in that room, in every breakout room, in this hotel. We are on a mission. We're changing people's lives, changing people's pocketbooks, changing people's hearts, right? Who else is out there doing that? Nobody, not like we're doing it. So we're working for income, of course. We're working for income. And we're working for impact. That's the biggest thing we can give back, is be an impact or an influence on somebody else. And so that's what we're looking for. What we need is more people going out there, looking people in the eye and telling them that they believe in them. I believe in you. Kind of like what Jake and Veray were talking about. Giving them hope, right? And belief. Because you know that they many times don't believe in themselves. So it's up to us to give them the belief. Now, we can't do everything for them, right? They got to pick it up and go, right? But we can give them the belief. And we can give them an opportunity and open the door for them. So some of you know me, some of you don't. Real quickly, a little bit about my background. When I first got started in this, I got laid off from a couple jobs. Anybody else get laid off, fired? Right out of college. And I got laid off twice in 1 year, and I was like, what am I going to do, right? Do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get another job, My husband, Mike, and I, we were newly married. He loved what he was doing in the engineering world, but financially, we just weren't making it. We weren't getting it together, right? And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And so Alex Abian worked with me in a recruiting company. I settled for a job where I was 100% commission in a recruiting business. I was making about $40,000 commission, not a lot. Cold calling, hated it. So anybody that complains about bang bang leads or direct mail leads, I'm like, oh boy. You cannot speak to me about that, because cold calling is a lot different than that. So I was like, I could call somebody that give me their phone number. So many times in that recruiting business, we didn't even have a phone number. So when I went to a meeting, there were probably 50 people in the room, and I saw a guy by the name of Andy Albright sharing this opportunity. And I was like, the biggest thing for me was, I believed that he believed I could do this. I believed it when he said, I think you can do this. I'll show you how to do it. I'm not going to leave you behind. You got to do the work. I'm not going to leave you behind. And that's what got me fired up, because I saw somebody that was passionate about something that he was doing, right? And Mike didn't go with me. I drove in a van with 7 guys. We hopped in, went to Raleigh, North Carolina, 9 hours away. Alex Abian invited me into this, by the way. His breakout is coming up next in that breakout 3, so make sure you get over there for that. But and what Alex did for me was he opened a door for me. He gave me a choice to decide if I wanted to financially do something different or if I did not want to. But he gave me the choice. There was a guy in our wedding, John Miller's his name. It's very like, John Miller is like a normal name, right? But this is this guy's name. He knows who he is. But he's not in this room. Don't worry about it. But he was in our wedding, and he didn't ask us if we wanted to do this business. He had started 6 months before Alex Abian talked to me. And he's missed out on millions of dollars in overrides, trips, bonuses. And guess what? We got paid yesterday, Friday. Alex got a paycheck from us. He got Monday with another paycheck. Alex and Jenny are getting paychecks every Monday and Wednesday and Friday based on Alex giving me an opportunity to decide if I wanted to see what was on the other side of the door. That's what that whole recruiting thing that Andy was talking about there, it's like, how many people can you talk to fast enough, and you may have $1 million or more in your phone, passive income. Because that's what Alex had. Tracking with me? So everybody, like, scroll through your phones, make a list of who you need to get to. We can go to the next. Oh, I'm in control, right? He told me that earlier. I'm in control. So let's get into this. All right, so God uses people. You and I are people. So I was in a meeting. You never know what's going to happen in a meeting, right? I was invited to go to a meeting, and it was in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was standing in the back of the room. It was a full meeting, but I was standing in the back of the room, and Andy was standing next to me on my right-hand side. I'll never forget it. Defining moments, right? And he leaned over to me, and he said, God uses people. And you and I are people. And we got to help people believe. And that stuck with me so hard. It gives me tingles right now thinking about it, because we're made for abundance. You're made for abundance and to achieve. No matter what somebody else poured into you, you're made for abundance, right? We all are. I have a whole nother story about my nephew. Well, I'll just tell you. He came to me one day. He was going to do this business. He did it for a little bit, wrote a couple apps, and he came to me and he said, I don't think I, can do this. I don't think I want to do this. And then he said that, and I'm like, cool, no problem. I'm not going to force anybody to do this. But he said, I guess I'm just made for mediocrity. And that's the thing that pisses Noelle off. Speak that negative into yourself, and that makes me upset, because we're all fighting battles like that. But I said, hey, buddy, I love you. You're not meant for mediocrity. You're meant for abundance no matter what you do. This business, some other career, it doesn't matter. But you speak, you're meant for abundance. You got me? And so that we all are. So we have different roles that we play in this business. Different, like this was mom, wife, and business partner. I changed it to, not that I'm not proud of all those things. I'm very proud of all those things. But I changed it in my thing to parent, spouse, business partner, right? Right, because we have men and women that do this. We have different roles in our lives. You could be a mom, but you could be a dad. You could be a single dad. You could be a single mom. You could be a grandma. I don't know, but you have different roles playing in your life. So I prepared this for that, right? So each morning, we wake up and we get to decide what role we're going to play, what character we're going to be, how we're going to present ourselves, right? We have a choice for that. We talked last night in our night out, there aren't bad days, there's only bad moments. If you choose, you can choose for it to be a bad day, but there are bad moments. So it's how do you respond to those things that matters. So you have everything inside of you. We just need to bring it on out. So who's the enemy? Is this showing up here for you all? Who is the enemy? I think you might already know, right? Fear. Change. I could have just cut it off at fear, right? Did you see that roll right over there? I know. How do we flatten that fear? How do we get ourselves out of that fear? Because we know it's going to happen, right? It's just going to happen. Can I move the notes up a little bit? Or am I in control of that? Those are the notes for this? Okay. So I don't know. So so we know it's going to happen. How do we overcome that, right? What do we do next, right? So if we know something's going to happen anyway, and you're aware it's going to happen, how can we prepare our minds for when it happens? Tracking with me? Okay. All right. So there's something that Alex Abian showed me a while ago. It's called the 5 emotional stages of change. Now, he didn't make this up, okay? Some smart psychologists made this up. They're listed there. You can look it up. But Alex is the first one that taught me this, okay? So, let me do this because my notes are a little wonky on that. Excuse me. Got to be prepared. One more. Hold on. Okay. So this business is like any other business. It requires change in every role that you're playing in this business and in your life. So we need to talk about this. The good news is you're not alone. If we know everybody's going to go through it, you're not alone, right? So there's 5 emotional changes, stages of change, and you have on this end. I know my slides are a little wonky. It's my fault, totally. But emotional stages is on the y-axis. Is that right? Axis, and then time is on the bottom axis. And then on the dotted line there, above the line you have optimism, and below the line you have pessimism. Optimism is above the line because it always needs to be above, right? Pessimism is below the line because it needs to be below in your thought process, right? But how does this all work? So, stage 1, uninformed optimism. Uninformed optimism. This is like when you just got your license and you're fired up out of your mind, or you went to a meeting and you're fired up out of your mind and you're like, I'm going to kill this thing. Was anybody like me? I was like, I am going to kill this thing, right? And you get your license, and it's about your hopes and dreams and things like that, right? And you imagine the benefits, but you haven't experienced any of the costs yet. You're thinking of all the benefits and all the dreams, but you haven't thought about any of the costs yet. And you see all those benefits and no downside. That's this stage. So imagine, same thing. Well, let's talk about college, let's say. Same experience there. Whatever your personal experiences is, it's the same thing. Going into the military might be the same thing. I was never in the military, but that you might be excited when you're first starting, right? And then you get into, okay, what am I really costs are on this, right? So, all right. The next stage is informed pessimism. Can you all see it? So this is when you're learning the reality of what it takes to make that change, right? See how it dips below the line? That's when you're like making phone calls and people hang up on you, or you schedule 10 appointments and you have 10 no-shows, right? You're like, this is really a very precarious stage. It doesn't last too long because then we typically dip to the next stage. But this is when all those negative emotions start creeping in, right? The benefits don't seem real and they don't seem as important as they were before. But the costs seem really high, right? We're focusing on all those costs. So you start to wonder and question, is this worth it? Is it worth it? And you look for reasons to abandon this. Abandon what you're doing. All right. It gets worse. Are you ready? Stage 3, the valley of despair. It's spooky. It's scary, right? This is where many people give up, right? The pain of the change is felt, and you're feeling it hard, baby. And we forget the benefits or why we got excited in this in the first place. By the way, at stage 1, you definitely want to write down what those dreams, hopes, goals are. If you have a team and you're hiring people, tell them to write those things down. Why? Because they're going to need them when they get to stage 2 and stage 3. So they can start thinking again about their vision and putting that in front of themselves and in front of their family. So they can recreate that energy that they had. And this point right here is high communication with the right people, with the people that will help you. It's so important because many times we have well-intentioned family members, and what they'll tell you is, it's okay, baby. It's okay. You deserve a break today and every day. You don't have to work, right? I'm just saying, we have people in in our lives where they'll say it's okay, quit, do something else. Don't worry about it. It's not worth it, whatever. But if you get around the right people that help you grow and challenge you to move beyond that, that's when you're heading on the right path, right? So make sure you're talking to the right people, the people that have walked that minefield before you, right? And remember, the people that we see talking on stage and everything like that, we see them how they are now. We have no idea all that stuff that they had to go through, right? So here's the thing that we do many times is we look back and we say, who can I blame? It's the leads. I'm going to blame John Davis and Bang Bang Leads. I'm going to blame my upline. They just don't understand me. Andy Albright has no idea what I'm going through. All those thoughts happen in stage 2 and stage 3, especially without high communication with people that put positive into your heads, right? So very important. So there's 2 things you can do here at this point, 2 options. You can quit and then repeat stage 1 through 3 somewhere else. Or you can go, another point there is you can quit and then go back to what you did before. Who wants to do that? You remember, write those things down of why you're doing this in the beginning when you need it, when you have these issues in your head, right? And then the other option here is to push through to success. Push through to success. That's why you have to communicate. It's work times leads times communication. Talking to the right people that will help you push through those obstacles. Very massive in this situation, okay? So, as you're moving along, you're still working, communicating, getting adjustments. We push through to stage 4, which is informed optimism. Now you know a little bit. You're starting to get some paychecks coming in. You're like, you got somebody recruited on your team. You got a couple people coming in to convention. You got overrides coming in. You're fired up, right? You're fired up out of your mind. The possibility of success increases tremendously at this point. You're starting to see the skills of the efforts you put in, and you're looking back and saying, I did that. I did that with a team of people backing me. I did that. And change is starting to feel worth it. Now, you keep working, right? Because you got a lot more work to do. But we get to this point here. This is stage 5, success and fulfillment. Success and fulfillment, baby. Who can get fired up about that? I tell you what, the benefits of your new habits, you're finally experiencing those benefits. You're accomplishing some of those things you thought about at the beginning, some of those dreams. Maybe you take a trip with your family, something like that. Whatever you had written down, you're starting to get that fulfillment and seeing some of that. You're starting to see other people come behind you fulfilling their dreams. And that's the most important feeling right there. And here's the thing. You're going to be like, at this stage, you're going to be like, it's better than I ever thought it was going to be. This is better than I ever thought it could be. It was like, and then you're thinking, why didn't I push harder in the beginning, right? But this is not a stopping point, though. This is a continuing point and bringing more people behind you. But I promise you, it's better than you ever thought it was going to be. It's especially when you see the changes. And this is where you start to see people for where they are now. And it's going to be an emotional ride, no matter what role you're playing in your life. Mom, spouse, husband, father, sister, brother, mama, whatever it is, right? It's going to be an emotional ride. Let's embrace it. And now we're aware of it. When we're in this point, we can say, okay, what do I need to do? I'm in stage 1, or my agent's in stage 1. They need to write down their goals and what they're doing. They need to have big, hairy, audacious goals, BHAG goals, right? Things that they never even thought possible. We all do, right? And then if you're in stage 2 and you're aware, maybe I'm feeling these negative thoughts, you can reach out to your upline and say, okay, who do I reach out to? Who can I talk to? What can I listen to? And what can I read? Massive in stage 2 and stage 3 on this. Okay, I'm going to push on this. Okay, so mission prep. These are things to do over and over and over again. All right, so this is how we thrive in our roles, doing these things over and over. It's not a one and done or anything like that. It's thinking through these things all the time. So vision and goals. What do you want? How do you get it? Like Andy said, we know how to get it. It's what do you want? Many times we're too scared to write down what we want. Big, hairy, audacious goals. Just write them down. It's not going to hurt anybody. All right, and then we're going to talk a few of these points here in a minute. Planning and schedule. That's been massive for every role that I've played in my life. Planning and schedule. I try to get better at this all the time. Andy's taught me so much in this, and I'm working on it every day, all the time. Investing in yourself and in your business. Investing, continuing to invest and grow. That's why getting to the national convention is so important, because we have those emotional stages of change. When you're in the stage 3, you definitely need to be at the next event. All right, so, and then the fourth thing here is executing and coaching, getting coaching from the right people. And it might not be your direct upline, okay? It might not be your direct upline. All right, so let's go to this vision and goals. Okay. So positive self-talk is massive. Even when you don't want to do it. I know it's difficult, believe me. There are several books on this. I'm not going to go into all the details. There is a book called Hung by the Tongue. There's another one called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Those are 2 massive books that have helped me a lot. But you need to be speaking what you want and not what you don't want. Speak what you want and not what you don't want. Erin's in the room. She's my daughter. She probably has heard me say this before, right? Speak what you want and not what you don't want. By the way, here's another one. It's not on the slide. It's just an additional tip. If you don't ASK, you don't GET. If you don't ask for those referrals, you're not getting no referrals to you. So you got to ask to get. Now, sometimes my kids will say, well, Mom, sometimes we don't get. And I'm like, well, if you never ask, you're never going to get. But sometimes I might be, yeah, let's do this thing, right? So if you don't ask, you don't get. All right, next thing. Positive affirmations, speaking that positive into yourself. I am a winner. Speaking the present. I am a winner. I am going to be a millionaire. I am a millionaire. Speaking the present. I am a millionaire. Brian Tracy Goals book is a great book on this. He talks about how to set up your goals, which is the next thing. Write down your goals here. I'm not going to get into a big thing on goals, but I would highly recommend that book, okay? And he talks about how to speak in the present what you want and write those things down. Once you write them down, okay, so you definitely need to write them down and speak them out loud, whether you believe them or not, over and over and over again. Once you do that, you create an action plan and a process to achieve it in that timeline. Have a timeline for yourself. Maybe have 30-day goals, 90-day goals, 6 months goals, whatever it is. Get with your upline. They'll help you on this. But you got to create priorities, and that's what we're going to talk to next, for what you need to do, okay? Beware of decision monsters. Those are the what ifs. That's the fear coming back in again. It's like, what if I get all these leads and I don't help any families? What if I hire this person and they quit? What if I talk to my brother about this and he doesn't want to do it? See what I'm saying? All those what ifs add up to time lost in your life. So that's what we're trying to do, is create more time in these different roles in our life, okay? See where this is going? Hopefully. Make your family a big part of your goals. Make them a part of it. Make them a reason for it. Include them in these things. When my kids were young, I have 4 kids. They're older now, and we still do this. We talk about goals and how to achieve them, and we would include them in that. And then we give them little rewards when we hit certain goals. It doesn't have to be big things, but let them know. Let them speak it, right? Help them to speak it. All right. Moving on here. Okay. So Stephen Covey in the book First Things First talked about these things. The first time I heard about it was on a TWC when Andy talked about these things. So there are a lot of books and a lot of things, but I highly recommend getting on these calls because these things have changed my thought process, right? So I know I screwed this up, but your time is in the middle, right? And then we've got urgent, not urgent, important, and not important quadrants. So your time falls in these quadrants somewhere, right? So what is urgent and important things? Those are like emergencies, deadlines, last-minute prep, kind of like when I was putting this PowerPoint together, right? That was an urgent and important task to get done. These are things that they don't have to be there. Well, sometimes they're there just because, like if you had a heart attack, like we need to call the ambulance right now. You know what I'm saying? So that would fall in that. If you fall off the stage, and you hit your head on a concrete floor, you have to go right now to the hospital. Okay, so some of these things. So what's quadrant 2? I'll just read that. What does it say again? What did I put? Not urgent and not important. We've got like personal growth, planning, preparation, opportunity, and strategy, strategizing. You hear Andy, I think, said that today, something about strategizing, right? So this is where most successful people spend most of their time in the not urgent, important box. Planning their schedule. Andy talked about it yesterday, planning his schedule, like putting it in his calendar now while he's thinking about it. And then later he can be mad at himself or pissed off and wondering who put it in there, right? But if we do it now, we accomplish more. If we plan for it now, we accomplish it faster. That's what we were kind of talking to you about, Sarah, okay? All right. Not important and urgent. These are other people's emergencies. This is like interruptions that happen. We think they're important, but they're not important to us and what our goals are, right? Trivial tasks is quadrant 4. Wasteful stuff. Escapes. We all know what they are. We all have them. What we're trying to do is minimize the time there and maximize it up there. Tracking with me? Okay. Quadrant 1 is the reactive, right? Because I got to do it now, right? Emergency situations, right? I got to prep, got to get my thing done. All right, so that's you're reacting. It's very stressful, that box. Most of the time, it's because we didn't do the things in quadrant 2 right that we get to quadrant 1. Most of the time. Quadrant 2 is proactive. You're preparing ahead of time. That's what this whole thing is about. You got to do these things, prepare ahead of time. That minimizes no matter what role you are, whether it's a mom or a dad or a business partner. If you prepare ahead of time, you eliminate a lot of that stress. Tracking with me? All right. That means, are you following along for those that don't speak Louisvillian? All right. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, by the way. Louisville. All right. So quadrant 3 is deception. That even sounds like we don't want to be there. You know? It's the quadrant of deception. It's because we think other people's situations are our situations. And it's deceiving us because it's not advancing us in all those things we wrote down that we wanted to do. And then quadrant 4 is procrastination, which we all know how that turns out, right? Procrastination does not help you at all. Many times procrastination also puts you into quadrant 1. So what we want to do here is we want to spend most of our time above the line. Was that a rhyme, like Bel Air? I felt like it was. All right. So here's the thing. The quadrant 2, the not urgent and important task, that's the leadership quadrant. Everybody in here is a leader. You're a leader at home. You're a leader at work. You're a leader at school. You're a leader in the alliance. So we spend most of our time in the leadership quadrant. All right? Makes sense? Okay. This goes along with this. That same TWC Andy was talking about in the next slide here, I'm going to share. Oh, I think I clicked the wrong button. Planning and schedule. Okay. Do you like my cool little transitions? I'm fired up, Tia. All right. So there was a TWC. Andy talked about you have a birthday and you have an end day. And in between your birthday and your end day is a dash. What are you doing in your dash? And sometimes our dashes are longer and sometimes our dashes are shorter, but the dashes are the hours and the minutes and the seconds of our lives. What are we doing in the dash? And that's what this whole thing is about. What are we doing to advance those things that we want to advance for ourselves, right? And our families, right? Comes back to the planning and the thinking about what you want. Where do you spend your time? Write it down. Just take a minute and write it down. Where do you spend your time? Control your time or someone else will. Or something else will. We talked about quadrant, and what was it, 3? Somebody else's emergency. If you let them, they will, I don't like to say steal it because we let them take it many times with those family and friends and so forth. So, all right, so track in 15-minute blocks. 15-minute blocks is what Andy talks about. So that's what I'm going with. He talks about, here's the thing. Think about your couple days, like do this, a couple days or maybe even a week long. Track where you're in 15-minute blocks, where you're spending your time. And be real with yourself. Like, what's your wake-up time, your workout time, your eating time, your reading time, your dialing time, your work time, your kid time, whatever those things are. And write them down. And what you'll find is that you have way more time than you think you do. Right? Because we have a lot of filler time sometimes. All right, so rate your activities. A, B, C, D, E. Andy's got a whole video on this. It's from 2016. It's the TWC. It's called, so you can rate your activities, business and personal. It's in that same book, I think, First Things First. But anyway, A activities are very important. That's why they're the A's. Dragon? Now, some of the C students in here, like me, may not understand what an A is. But you want to get the A's. Right, Emily Katz? Okay, all right. In this business, you do. And in your life. Right? B activities are things that you should do. I should do these things. You know, maybe it's like pending business. You should do it, but you don't do it when you have A activities like dialing and scheduling your appointments and recruiting time, right? You do that in outside income producing time. Making sense? Tracking with me? All right. This is not easy, by the way. None of this is easy because you got to look at yourself. But the good thing is you're looking at yourself. No one else is looking at you doing this. You're going to know, but nobody else is going to know. But sometimes we don't want to know what we think we don't want to know. Am I talking in circles? I like to do that. Okay. I think somebody understood that. C is nice to do. These things would be nice to do. I don't have to do them. It would be cool to do it. It's inconsequential to my life. That's a real word. Proud of myself. Okay. D is delegate. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Delegate is like I was talking to somebody today. I forget who it was. The first thing we delegated, Mike and I, was we delegated doing laundry because I hated doing laundry. That's not even a business thing, Noelle. I know, but that's a mom thing, you know. And so I delegated that. And then we hired other people around the house and stuff like that. But then we hired somebody to mow the lawn when we moved into our house. We didn't ever mow the lawn because neither one of us wanted to mow the lawn. Mike's allergic and whatever. His eyes glaze over. But I'm glad that he didn't, and I'm glad that I didn't because we created more time by doing that, right? So we hired somebody to do that. It doesn't take a lot of money to do these things. Imagine hiring a staff 10 hours a week. Let's say pending. On the income producing side, I mentioned pending before. You got to work in your business and get your applications issued, but do you have to be the person to do that? No, maybe in the beginning, but let's say you hired somebody for 10 hours a week to do that. Let's say you paid them, I don't know what the going rate is, but let's say it's $20, okay? It could be less than that, but let's say it's $20, $200, 10 hours to hire somebody to do pending. How much is 10 hours of your life worth? Is it worth more than $200? Now, when you have those extra hours, that's where we do the things that we need to do to hit our goals and do those things. Eliminate. There's so many things that we eliminate, right? We need to eliminate. I'm not going to look at anybody. I'm not going to talk to anybody about it. We all know some of those things that we need to eliminate. Successful people do this, and then they execute on the A. They go through and figure out where they're spending their time, and they execute on the A. And then on the next slide here, they prioritize. They prioritize on the A, the most important activities that's going to move them forward, whatever it is. And I said do this personal and do this business. It's the same thing, right? And then they delegate and they eliminate as much as they can, as fast as they can. I didn't write it on here, but as fast as they can. Andy told us to hire a staff right away, day one. Did we do it? No. Sad to say. What we did was we wasted time, thought about it, all those things. He told us that because he knew how important it would be for us to do that right away, right? And we create more time. How many hours do we get in a week? 168, right? Some of you are still doing the math, like me. I did this in a meeting the other day, and somebody said 40. You've been working a job too long. No, we all have 168 hours in the week. It's how are we spending the 160 hours? And then successful people delegate things and eliminate things to create more time in their week on the important things. That's how Andy and Jane got to where they are. Schedule. Now that you have your important activities, get it out of your head and onto your calendar. Get it. It's not going to do good sitting in your head. You need to get it on your calendar the moment you thought of it. The moment you think of it, put it in your calendar. And then do that thing on your calendar. What was the book? Is it First Things First? He might have said this in that book too. If not, somebody correct me. But he said, treat an appointment with yourself just as much as you'd treat an appointment with somebody else. Just as important, more important than you would treat it with somebody else. I'm going to the dentist next week. I got it on my calendar. I'm going to go. Nobody likes to go to the dentist, but we all want pretty, shiny, white, smiling teeth, right? Straight. But I'm going to go. It's in my calendar. It's important. What do? I get there early. I sit in the waiting room. I treat it important. And then in my head, I'm like, how important am I treating those things that I have in my calendar for myself to grow my business, right? So treat it as important as you would any other appointment. And then stick to that thing on the calendar like a savage, like a beast. Like a beast, baby. Stick to it like a savage, because that's the most important thing that you need to do. Here's the other thing. Communicate. Make sure everybody that needs to know what's on the schedule knows what's on the schedule. Your kids, your spouse, your parents, your sister, your mama, the babysitter, whoever needs to know, make sure that they know. We have a Sunday schedule that we put together. We've been doing this for years, but we put together a schedule every Sunday where we sit together. Now it's just the three of us, Eamon and Mike and I. Eamon's my son. He's the youngest. My other kids are out of the house at the moment. They might come back. I don't know. But we go over a schedule, and we've been doing this for years, planning ahead, what's happening throughout the week. Everybody knows. Everybody in my family and my staff have access to my calendar, my Google Calendar. And then we write it down at home, too, right? It's always in front of us. Who needs to be where? What's happening? Make sure they know, because you got making them a part of it. Can I just say it like this? Makes them feel loved. It makes them feel acknowledged. And you could also ask for input on that. And then if there's something that they want to do, maybe you fill it in with that, right? We all have choices and sacrifices. Investing in yourself. Okay? I'm going to go quickly through this. Choices versus sacrifices. They're all choices. I never look at it as a sacrifice, because I don't want that negative thought in my head. I'm not sacrificing to build this business. I'm not sacrificing to be a mom either. I'm not sacrificing to be a spouse. I'm doing what's required of me in this moment. Tracking? Like a savage. Okay. Attend all meetings you're invited to. You're all invited to National Convention. I expect you all to be there. I will give you high fives, and I'm fired up out of my mind, and hugs all the way through it, right? All right. So can I go back? Red button. Read positive self-development books. We talked about that. Associate with lifters. John Maxwell talks about there are elevator people. Some will lift you up, and some will bring you right on down, baby. Spend your time with those that will lift you up. And you know who those people are. Here's a task for you. Write down 3 people that you need to spend more time with. That's going to help you achieve these goals. And write down 3 people who you need to spend less time with. And sometimes that's very difficult to do, okay? Practice delayed gratification. We delayed everything. We took that money and invested it back in our family. We didn't buy a house. There was nothing on our walls. Not until we were making, what was it, Mike? We bought our house when we were making $600,000. It was our first house, starter shack. 56 square foot house on a golf course. All right. Invest in your goals, right? Invest in your goals. Invest in what you're doing. Okay. Execute and get coaching. Execute. Hopefully you felt this weekend. We do not have to do this alone. We do not have to do this alone unless you choose to do it alone. It'll be very lonely for you if you do. It breaks my heart sometimes because people are like, well, what will they think of me? I won't think anything of you except that you're courageous to talk to somebody about it. Okay? We all have stuff. Remember, we don't know where people are on that change schedule. We just see them where they're at, right? Learn from the people that have done it. Learn from the people that have walked through that minefield. If they've walked in a minefield ahead of you, You want to step where they stepped, right? You don't want to go, well, I'm going to go over here. Right? So learn from the people that have done it. You don't have to do it all. We kind of talked about this already on the delegate. You do not have to do it all. You got a whole team of people. Take action. If you fall, get up fast. If you fall, get up fast. Let's go. Let's go. You have a dash to work with. Review, adjust, execute. Review, adjust, execute. Review, adjust, execute. Review, adjust, execute. That's what we do. That's what we do with our lives, right? So let's get up after it. Let's go, baby. We got things to do. The alliance is on fire. My hair's on fire. We're going to do this. Let's go.